Canada is a country that defies scale. It's enormous, almost unimaginably so, and packed with landscapes that feel as though they were designed to make the human imagination feel small. Covering nearly 1/3 of all of North America, Canada isn't just wide open space on a map. It's a living, breathing mosaic of islands, forests, mountains, and coastlines that stretch far beyond the horizon. In this journey, we'll explore 15 geography facts about the Great White North. And along the way, we'll uncover not just the physical details, but the cultural and historical threads that tie them together. 1. Canada has more islands than any other country. Let's begin with a staggering number. Canada has more islands than anywhere else on Earth. Over 52,000 named islands and countless smaller, unnamed ones dot its seas and lakes. To put that in perspective, if you decided to spend just one day exploring each named island, it would take you more than 140 years, and that's without sleeping. Most of these islands are clustered in the Arctic archipelago, a labyrinth of over 36,000 frozen outposts that together make up about 15% of Canada's landmass. Among them are Baffin Island, the world's 5th largest island, and Ellesmere Island, the 10th largest. These are places where polar bears outnumber people and where the midnight sun casts surreal shadows across icy mountains. But Canada's islands aren't just about the Arctic wilderness. Head east and you'll find Prince Edward Island, a place of rolling farmland, potato fields, and sandy beaches immortalized in Anne of Green Gables. Travel west and you'll encounter Vancouver Island and Haida Gwaii, cloaked in lush temperate rainforest, alive with orcas offshore and totem poles onshore. Unlike archipelago nations such as Indonesia or the Philippines, where islands are hubs of bustling human activity, Canada's islands are often quiet and sparsely inhabited. This isolation has turned them into havens for biodiversity, indigenous heritage, and scientific research stations where climate scientists track the Arctic's future. 2. The longest coastline on Earth. With so many islands, it makes sense that Canada would also boast the world's longest coastline, over 202,000 kilometers. That's nearly 4 times longer than Indonesia's coastline, despite Indonesia having over 17,000 islands. Canada's shores touch 3 oceans, the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic, each giving the country a distinct maritime character. The Atlantic coast is home to lobster boats, foggy fishing villages, and the Bay of Fundy, where the tides rise and fall up to 16 meters every day, the highest tidal range on Earth. The Pacific coast boasts salmon runs, fjords, and cities like Vancouver that blend mountain backdrops with sea breezes. The Arctic coast, long locked in ice, is now one of the most geopolitically significant places in the world, as melting sea ice hints at new shipping routes like the Northwest Passage. This immense coastline supports not just fisheries and trade, but entire cultural identities. Atlantic Canadians often say they measure time by the tides, while Pacific communities see salmon runs as a kind of seasonal heartbeat. In the Arctic, Inuit hunters rely on sea ice conditions the way farmers elsewhere read the soil. 3. The second largest country on Earth at 998 million square kilometers, Canada is the world's second largest country, trailing only Russia. Its size is so great that you could fit the entire European Union inside it, with space left over for several Australias. Yet for all this land, Canada's population is only around 40 million people. That means an average density of just 4 people per square kilometer. Compare that to the United States with 35, or India with over 400, and suddenly, Canada feels like a vast, mostly empty canvas. This emptiness doesn't mean monotony. Canada's landscapes range from the temperate rainforests of British Columbia to the frozen tundra of Nunavut, from the flat golden prairies of Saskatchewan to the rugged, wind-beaten shores of Newfoundland. Its diversity is a reminder that size alone isn't the defining feature. It's how that size encompasses so many different worlds within one border. 4. Most Canadians live close to the U.S. border. Despite having all this space, about 75% of Canadians live within 100 miles of the U.S. border. That thin southern strip, less than 5% of Canada's total land area, holds nearly all its major cities: Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver. Why? Geography. The southern parts of Canada have milder climates, fertile soils, and the natural advantage of trade with the United States. By contrast, the northern regions, spectacular though they are, face harsh subarctic conditions that make farming and dense settlement almost impossible. This settlement pattern mirrors Russia, another enormous cold country where people cluster in the relatively mild west. But in Canada, the border strip has created something else too: a cultural intimacy with the United States. Canadian cities like Windsor and Niagara Falls are literally across the river from Detroit and Buffalo, making the border feel less like a divide and more like a thread stitching two countries together. 5. Hudson Bay, an inland sea. Let's move north to Hudson Bay, a colossal inland sea covering 1.23 million square kilometers, second only to the Bay of Bengal. Despite its size, it's surprisingly shallow, averaging just 100 meters deep, and it freezes completely every winter. Hudson Bay is a relic of the last ice age, when retreating glaciers carved out a massive depression that later filled with seawater. For centuries, its shores were the epicenter of Canada's fur trade, with the Hudson's Bay Company, one of the world's oldest corporations, establishing posts that would eventually shape the map of Canada itself. Today, Hudson Bay remains sparsely populated, with small indigenous communities relying on its rich waters for fishing and hunting. It's also an environmental bellwether. Changes in its ice cover are closely watched as indicators of global climate change. 6. Canada's millions of lakes. If you love lakes, Canada is your paradise. The country is home to over 2 million lakes, more than the rest of the world combined. Together, they account for nearly 9% of Canada's total area and hold about 20% of the planet's freshwater supply. Some of the most famous include Lake Superior, shared with the U.S., the world's largest freshwater lake by surface area; Great Bear Lake, Canada's largest by volume, set entirely within the Northwest Territories; Lake Ontario, Erie, and Huron, part of the Great Lakes system that has shaped trade and culture for centuries. These lakes aren't just postcard material, they're lifelines. They power hydroelectric plants, provide drinking water for millions, and support wildlife habitats of staggering richness. They are also playgrounds for summer cottages, canoe trips, and fishing expeditions that have become rituals of Canadian life. 7. Manitoulin Island, a lake. On an island in a lake. Among these lakes lies a true geographical oddity, Manitoulin Island in Lake Huron. It's the world's largest freshwater island, bigger than Luxembourg, and home to more than 100 inland lakes, some of which even contain their own islands. This creates a mind-bending chain, an island in a lake on an island in a lake. The most famous example is Treasure Island, often cited as the largest natural island in a lake on an island in a lake. Manitoulin is also culturally significant. It's home to several Anishinaabe First Nations communities whose traditions and histories shape the island's identity. Visitors come not only for the beaches and hiking trails, but also for powwows, storytelling, and sacred sites that connect the land to millennia of human experience. 8. Middle Island, Canada's southernmost point. When people think of Canada, they think snow and cold. Yet Canada's southernmost point, Middle Island in Lake Erie, lies on the same latitude as Rome and Northern California. At 41.4 degrees north, Middle Island is warmer than much of the northern U.S., though it's uninhabited today and protected as part of a conservation area. Its unique climate allows species like prickly pear cactus to grow. Yes, cactus in Canada. The southernmost inhabited point is nearby Pelee Island, where vineyards produce some of the country's most unusual wines, grown at a latitude where most people would never expect to sip Canadian Chardonnay. 9. The vast boreal forest. Stretching across the middle of the country is the boreal forest, one of the largest intact forests left on Earth. Spanning 2.7 million square kilometers, it covers about 35% of Canada's land area and stretches from Newfoundland all the way to the Yukon. This is a forest of spruce, pine, and fir, home to moose, lynx, wolves, and billions of migratory birds. It's not only a Canadian treasure, but a global one. The boreal forest acts as a massive carbon sink, helping regulate Earth's climate. Unlike tropical rainforest, much of Canada's boreal forest is still intact, yet it faces its own challenges. Wildfires, driven by lightning and climate change, now rage across the forest every summer, reshaping the ecosystem. 10. The ancient Canadian Shield. Beneath the forest lies something even older, the Canadian Shield, one of the world's most ancient geological formations. Some of its rocks are nearly 4.3 billion years old, offering clues to the early Earth. Stretching across much of Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, and the Northwest Territories, the Shield is both rugged and rich. Its lakes and forests are iconic, but its mineral deposits, gold, nickel, copper, have fueled Canada's mining industry for over a century. The Shield isn't just economic, it's cultural too. Its landscapes of granite outcrops and pine trees are a central theme in Canadian art, especially in the works of the Group of Seven, who tried to capture its raw, untamed beauty on canvas. 11. The Continental Divide. Running through the Rocky Mountains is the Continental Divide, a line that splits watersheds. Rivers west of the divide flow to the Pacific Ocean, while those east flow toward the Atlantic or Arctic. This divide, stretching from Alaska through Canada into South America, is more than a geographical curiosity. It shapes ecosystems and weather patterns. West of the Rockies, moist Pacific air makes for lush forests and heavy rainfall. East of the Rockies, the prairies stretch in a drier, windswept expanse. 12. Nunavut, Canada's newest territory. Created in 1999, Nunavut is Canada's newest and largest territory. Covering 2 million square kilometers, nearly the size of Mexico, it is home to just 41,000 people, mostly Inuit. Nunavut was established as part of a landmark land claims agreement recognizing Inuit self-governance and cultural heritage. Its capital, Iqaluit, has a population of just over 7,000, but serves as the administrative and cultural hub of the Eastern Arctic. The landscape is Arctic tundra and icy islands, including Baffin and Ellesmere. Wildlife like polar bears, caribou, and Arctic foxes roam, while Inuit traditions of hunting, storytelling, and art continue to define life. 13. Mount Logan, a growing giant. At 5,059 meters, Mount Logan in Yukon is Canada's tallest mountain and the second highest in North America after Alaska's Denali. Located in Kluane National Park, Logan isn't just tall, it's massive. Its base circumference is the largest of any non-volcanic mountain in the world, stretching nearly 40 kilometers. Even more fascinating, Mount Logan is still growing, rising about 35 millimeters per year due to tectonic activity. Climbers who attempt it face extreme cold, as low as 45 Baidigai, and storms that can last for weeks, making it one of the most formidable mountains on Earth. 14. Oil sands and energy riches. Surprising to some, Canada holds the third largest proven oil reserves in the world, behind only Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. Most of it lies in Alberta's Athabasca oil sands, where vast deposits of bitumen, thick, tar-like oil, require specialized extraction methods. This has made Canada a global energy player. Billions in revenue and thousands of jobs come from the oil industry, and Canada is the largest foreign supplier of oil to the United States. But it comes at an environmental cost: high carbon emissions, landscape disruption, and fierce debates over pipelines like the Trans Mountain expansion. It's a reminder that geography isn't just about beauty, it's about resources, power, and difficult choices. 15. 6 primary time zones. Finally, Canada's sheer size stretches across 6 primary time zones, from Pacific time in Vancouver to Newfoundland time in the east. And Newfoundland is special. It runs on a quirky half-hour offset, one of the few places in the world to do so. This time spread makes coordination across the country tricky. A hockey game broadcast at 7 p.m. Eastern means folks in British Columbia are still at work, while Newfoundlanders are already thinking about bed. But it also highlights the enormity of Canada, so big that when Vancouverites are sipping their first coffee, people in St. John's are sitting down for lunch. Canada is more than just a country of big numbers, big lakes, big forests, big coastlines. It's a country where geography and human history intertwine. Indigenous peoples have lived with and shaped this land for thousands of years. European settlers carved cities along its southern border. Today, it's a nation still balancing vast natural beauty with the pressures of modern development. From the Arctic tundra to the vineyards of Ontario, from glaciers that predate humanity to lakes that hold a fifth of Earth's freshwater, Canada's geography isn't just about space, it's about identity. It shapes who Canadians are and how they see the world. So the next time you glance at a map and see that massive swath of white and green labeled Canada, remember, it's not just empty land. It's a living story, one of the biggest, boldest, and most beautiful on Earth.